I'm harvesting half of my sweet potatoes today. I've been growing them 4 different ways, and I'm only going to harvest half of them because I also want to find out if I leave them in the ground for a little bit longer, will they just grow bigger and will they be better?
All I have needs, I have not provided.
So I'm going to clear off half the vines right now with my scissors off camera because it's quite boring and you don't want to be bored, right? I have a real detailed video about the 4 different ways that I'm growing the sweet potatoes, but when I come back, I'll review it real quick with you. But if you want to know all the details of how to grow sweet potatoes, I have a whole playlist. You want to subscribe, and then you want to hop over and look at my playlist. Well, once I started clipping these vines back, I decided I was going to share with you after all. Look at that. Isn't that exciting? That is great size sweet potatoes. Amazing. Oh, I just love growing them. I love eating them. There's nothing bad about sweet potatoes. Oh my goodness. They're so good for you. Look at here. I can't help it. I have to dig down there and bring them out of there. Here's that one. I have a sneaking suspicion which way is going to be the best way, but I'm keeping careful track on this garden grid. I have 2 different versions that's free for you. All you have to do is click through in the garden notes, the show notes below, and you get permission to print. You will not get permission to the file. You will get permission to print. But I wanted to show you real quick here. So here's the 3 sweet potato beds on this side, and then here's that one over here. So in the first bed, it's growing the sweet potatoes as normal and cutting them back. In the next bed, I grew them in dirt and I buried the vines as they grew. And the next bed, sweet potatoes, but once they were established, I covered the ground with tree mulch. Well, they've all been harvested, and I brought out some boxes and labeled them A, B, C, and D. A is the group where I stress the vines out by cutting them back. Very unimpressive, so don't stress your vines out, let them grow. B is the group that I buried into the soil right here, and as the vines grew, I planted the vines. Now, the smaller potatoes are where the vines were planted and branched out, but it's not as good as this group over here. Look, they're all over the place here. This is a pretty good size group here. They were planted right in the dirt and then dressed in the tree mulch that's back there. Now, to me, the most impressive are these that I did not even plant on purpose. These are what I call bonus. See on the box? They grew out into the pathway that was pretty deep in tree mulch. And so they actually came from both sides over here. So you could say that's a combination of vines that have grown out of both of the beds. So I noticed 2 things about the sweet potatoes that were growing directly into the tree mulch. First of all, extremely easy to take care of. All I did was keep them from wandering out into my yard. Otherwise, I just let them cover that whole area on their own. The second thing I've noticed is there's a lot of really big ones in here, more so than any of the other beds. The downside, here's another great big one. The downside is I've noticed that some of them looks like there's a root knot nematode in some of them, and also a couple of them are split. There looks like some insect damage, more so in this group than in the other groups. So I'm thinking maybe the tree mulch attracts pests, but at the same time, well, there's a lot of sweet potatoes here. So I am going to weigh them, and I'm going to let you know how much each group weighs. Well, let's weigh the sweet potatoes. I've kept them separated, A, B, C, D, and bonus. So I have A on the scale right now. That's not even 5 pounds. Okay, A is a little over 3 pounds. So 3.2 pounds. Okay? Remember, A is where I stress the plants out by keeping them cut back. B is where I planted them in the soil and kept replanting the vines as they grew. So B is about 8 3/4 pounds. So 8.75 pounds. Remember, this is half the bed, but that's really not a good yield in my opinion. Okay, this is C. This is where I buried them in the dirt and then side dressed them as soon as they got long enough and established. And they grew right into the tree mulch. Okay. Right at 17 pounds. This is D, where I had started a new bed by putting down the cardboard and then a really heavy layer of mulch. £21 pounds. Now I would be pretty happy with that, knowing that there may be double that in that one bed. And that was the easiest bed ever. All I did was plant them and hope they live. That's it. And I kept them trimmed back just so they wouldn't go into the yard or the next bed over. And this is bonus potatoes that grew in that pathway. Okay, that's 9 1/4. So I'm going to spread all of these out on a blanket so that they can dry. Once they're thoroughly dry, then I'll repackage them back up into the little open boxes. And if you want to know how to keep the pests, including mice and rats, out of your sweet potatoes, even though it's in the shed, you got to check out this video. And if you don't see it up here somewhere, YouTube messes it up. Not me, it's YouTube. Look for it in the show notes. Don't go away. I want to share a few more tips with you. Thanks for sticking around this long. I hope it's been helpful. I think it's obvious that sweet potatoes love to grow in mulch. Now I have leaf mulch, but they don't do as well in the leaf mulch as they did in the tree mulch. So if at all possible, get some tree mulch, plant your sweet potato vines there, and just let them go. I've been making it a little bit too hard. Just let them grow. It's really important to keep a garden journal. The notes that I keep on these little charts here go into my garden journal. I have two different ones that are available in my Etsy shop. One is for you to print and write in with a pencil or pen. The other is electronic. I prefer the electronic one, but either way, they become a living document. And mine's about 10 years old now and going strong. I really benefit from going back and looking at all of what I've learned over the years. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out my playlist. You can start from growing your own slips all the way to a recipe that I just posted recently.
Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me.